Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to my tour of my little book room here. This is the little sanctum sanctorum where I live and have my being, where I can shut out the world and just be me and my dogs, which still feels reflexive to say dogs in the plural when there's only one dog right here over on the bed. And we are going through these books so that I can make a visual library of what I have, and we are down to the floor. So these last two shelves are on the floor. This bookcase, this Joe bookcase, is perfectly shaped for books. I measured this out and everything, and I sent them all to Joe. This is the height of a standard book. So there are no transwise books. So we'll just go through these. Let's see. All right. So the first one we have. This is James Costa does the annotations here. This is the annotated Origin of Species, and so you get the text, the 1859 text on one side, and then the annotations on the other, all throughout the book. You don't need this to read and appreciate Darwin's great book, the greatest book by a single author ever written, the most important book by a single author ever written. But the annotations add a lot, and Costa's by introduction also adds a lot. This is my favorite edition of Origin of Species. So I'm treasuring it all the more because in very little time it will be illegal here in the United States for me to have a copy of this book. So I'll give it up voluntarily. It's not worth losing your house over a book, but I'll miss it. 3/4 of the adult population of the United States believes that evolution is not real, that evolution by means of natural selection is not real, that all life was created by magic. And that is increasingly being legislated as a thing that you have to believe, that you have to teach in public schools to children who don't know any better, on pain of, right now, losing your job, but in a couple of years it will be on pain of imprisonment or death. So this is the most religious fundamentalist country in the world, and an extremely hobnailed repressive one. So Darwin's Origin of Species is very much an endangered book, or soon will be. I think I have one other Origin of Species in here in this room, but this is the one I go back to all the time. What is this next one wedged in here? Oh, okay, great. It has a pub sheet and everything. Good Lord. This is from the University of Georgia Press. This is by Charles Seabrook, and it's called The World of the Salt Marsh. That is a salt marsh there, a typical salt marsh on the cover there. I eat up books on this particular biome. A lot of you will not be in a position to have ever experienced a salt marsh. They aren't as common as they once were. But that's what they are, these high hedges with channels of water meandering through them, sometimes coming back to meet on each other. There are a couple of kinds of salt marshes. I am a big fan of the saltwater marsh, the tidal salt marsh, so that those channels fill and ebb with water, with salt water, with seawater. And there are salt marshes all around the eastern seacoast. I have been over all of them. Oh my God. In a canoe with a bunch of beagles. I have been over all of this. There is a beauty, a weird, bewitching beauty to salt marshes. If you have one near you and you are able and just have been too lazy doom scrolling on your phone, you really should go out into them and experience them. Probably there are tours. Probably there are canoes you could rent. Probably you could do that. You should look into it because it's worth it. They are amazing. All right. This is another book with a pub sheet in it. I think this came out before we were talking to each other. No, 2017. Well, close enough. This is by Rich Savin Williams, and it is called Mostly Straight. About well, there are a number of ways that you could describe this. Some of them are only insouciant. Some of them are, this is a serious book, and I thought it was really interesting. But sexual fluidity, that's a broad tent descriptor, I would say. This author looks at a whole bunch of different scenarios. The nefarious one, the most nefarious one by far, would be the prisons in the United States, which are for-pay torture centers, and in which famously heterosexual men are, let's just say, introduced to a different sexuality, and they just have to live with it. And if that's the most sinister, the most benign would be the two friends, the bros, on the couch after a long video gaming session, who maybe they both haven't had the physical companionship of a woman in quite some time, and they won't acknowledge, in the 21st century, they absolutely won't acknowledge the fact that the reason they haven't had any physical companionship with a woman in quite some time is because they have both very intentionally made themselves insufferable. They've made themselves insufferable. Women tend not to like insufferable men. Or maybe they do. Well, no. The most benign version on this spectrum would be those two bros just, it's late. You've been vaping, semi-mind-altering drugs all night long. Maybe one hand wanders to the other, and you're going to make an unspoken agreement not to talk about it the next day. But it did happen. It's fascinating. To me, it's fascinating because I think it points the way to the truth about a human's omnivorous sexuality. I think that when all is said and done, when the final word is written, who knows by whom and who knows when, I think the final word will be that the people who are, I'm sure you know them, the men who are just absolutely slit your throat if you even imply it, 100% rigidly heterosexual, and cannot even see other men. I can't even see them clearly. The gray figures in the fog. Because even looking at another man might threaten that rigidity. I think when the final word is said, they will be seen as the weird aberrations. Not so much, not to act on. Of course, the percentages are still going to stay roughly the same, 90% to 10%, maybe even 92% to 8%. But the absolute lack of fluidity, I think, is going, in the ultimate analysis, written by some other species, maybe raccoons, I think the ultimate analysis will be that is the weird thing. Who knows, though? Oh, no. Oh, no. This is a double. This is a second copy of The Essential Dracula by Leonard Woolf. This is Bram Stoker's novel with tons of joyously geeky footnotes. But I'm not saying no to the book. The book is wonderful, but it's one of at least two copies in this room, and this room cannot have that. It cannot have that. There are many, many copies of Lord of the Rings in this room. There are many copies of Moby Dick. There are many copies of War and Peace. So maybe it can. Let's just move on. Try not to think about it. Oh, all right. Then we have a block of these things. I wish I could find more of these. These are. Oh my God. This still has a pub sheet in it. Good Lord. This is from 2020. These are Anthony Horowitz's Alex Ryder novels. Alex Ryder had a movie that you may have seen, maybe a couple of movies. No, I think there's only one movie. And I think there's a new series. They were brought out originally. These Alex Ryder, these are YA adventure novels, very good for getting boys into reading, keeping boys in reading. I love them. I think they're just incredibly fast paced. But the original run of these things in America had some of the most boring cover designs imaginable. Almost like a parody of a boring cover design. And then years and years later, who did this? Philomel decided to redo these with originally commissioned cover artwork that's really good. They did the whole of the run, and I really wish I had the whole of the run, because I would definitely read it again. This is Nightshade. I only have 3 of these things. I have Nightshade. I have Never Say Die. Is that a skateboard that he's on? One might as well be. Alex Ryder is capable of anything. And then Secret Weapon, where he's facing a snake there. But one of these covers, if I remember correctly, has sharks on it. Yeah, Skeleton Key up at the top there has sharks on it. I wish I had all of these covers. I never see them in the wild. And I don't even know that Philomel books still exist, but I don't feel right about asking them for something that's, 10 years old. So I just wait. Every once in a while, I will see these things on Amazon and think, why don't I just assemble all the ones that I don't have and just buy them? You'll reread them, and you want them, but I don't do it. I think that's why people have Amazon wish lists, but I don't have an Amazon wish list. All right. Then we have a figure we've seen before on this channel. This is Singing in the Morning. Occasional pieces by about Martha's Vineyard, the island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts, by Henry Beetlehoff, who was forever and ever the editor of the Martha's Vineyard Gazette. I will take anything by this author. I absolutely love him. This has little spot illustrations, and it's just atmospheric pieces about the vineyard, major storms, local characters, food. I love it. I go back to it. I was very happy to find a copy. I'd love to find another copy. All right. Then we have Kenneth Roberts, who has already been on this tour. We've seen him for his historical fiction, Arundel and Rabble in Arms and Northwest Passage and whatnot. This is another book of his that I love. I absolutely love this book. This is Trending into Maine, which takes a whole bunch of looks at historical Maine through a whole bunch of quasi-fictional focus characters, with N.C. Wyeth illustrations all throughout. Such a gem of a book. Maine, for those of you, again, who are not in America, Maine is an enormous New England state up at the top of New England it's a big, tall, fat state. Not big by Midwestern or especially Western standards, but still big for New England standards. And it just extends up to the Canadian border. So down here, at the coast where the water is still bearable and there are still beaches, and where you've got a border with the southern New England. Down at the bottom of the state, you've got a couple of cities and a couple of towns, a couple of wonderful Algonquin up there, and a couple of wonderful coastal resorts. And then you've got the rest of the state, which is forbidding wilderness. And this book looks, Roberts is really interested in the history of Maine, as you could tell, from his historical fiction. Okay, then we have Carl Safina. This is Natural History. This is A View from Lazy Point. He's a wonderful nature writer, and he just takes you through all the seasons. This is a lightly illustrated book. All the seasons of a seaside section of land here on the East Coast, and it's wonderfully, wonderfully done. I believe I'm blurbed on this thing somewhere. You couldn't put me on the cover, you bastard. You couldn't put me on the cover. No, come now. Oh yes, I am. Okay, I'm blurbed on the inside. I'm not blurbed on the outside, but that's all right. It's still a wonderful book. I have the paperback is a little bit on the fragile side, and I admit, to the simple egotism, I admit it because I believe you would all do the same. The reason I don't have a hardcover of this is because my name is printed on the paperback. That's why I have the paperback instead, and I don't think you can judge me. Okay, then we have Laura Santara. This is also has a pub sheet. When did we get this? Did we talk about this? This came out from Little Brown in 2013. So yeah, we would have been in a mail haul back there somewhere. Oh no, it wouldn't have been. That was before we were talking to each other. This is called The Boy. Very bait and switch cover there. There's no boy on that cover. But this is very much like the earlier book that we saw in this endless library tour. A much younger man This is basically the same kind of story. An older woman, not an old woman, but an older woman who falls in love with a much younger man. And again, this is done with heart, so I really enjoyed it. Oh, look at you. Okay, your name just came up here. Okay, almost came up. This is an old literary work. This is Yesterdays with Authors by James Fields of the famous Boston publishing firm Ticknor and Fields. This is the author's 1873 reflections on some authors that he has met: Thackeray, Hawthorne, Dickens, Wordsworth, Miss Mitford, and then a bunch of smaller fry Boston literary folk. I have a whole wall of books like this: literary profiles, literary essays, life in books, life in publishing. But I go back to this a lot, and I never see this. I've only found the one copy out in the wild. So I got this a long time ago. And I love it. I keep going back to this. This is not the kind of book that you can actually reinforce, so I try to be gentle with it so that I don't destroy it. But it's glimpses of a literary Boston that I know really, really well, and Fields is one of the people that introduced me to it. And then finally we have another science fiction anthology. So I do have some science fiction anthologies in here. We saw Universe 10 just a little while ago. This is another one. This is a big one. This is Gardner Dozois, The Good Stuff, which has two parts: the good stuff and the new good stuff. And it's an anthology of longer works of science fiction. The idea being here, the reference here being what science fiction fans always used to say in science fiction dens, the little places where science fiction readers would gather to talk and drink cheap beer, or the bookstores, the dedicated ramshackle science fiction bookshops that used to exist before rents became absurd, where new readers of the genre and also older readers would go up to the old bearded proprietor and say, "Give me the good stuff." Because there's so much science fiction out there that isn't good. There's so much of it that's bad. And that's what these titles allude to. But it's up to you whether or not Dozois actually did it. Whether or not he's actually put good stuff in here. He's really good. Was really good as an editor. So what do we have here? The Rull by A. Van Vogt, an excellent choice. Second Night of Summer by James Schmitz. The Galton Whistle by Elsbreg de Camp. The New Prime by Jack Vance. That Share of Glory by C.M. Kornbluth. The Last Days of Shandakor by Lee Brackett. Exploration Team by Murray Leinster. If Murray Leinster is in your book, you are not exclusively culling good stuff. The Sky People by Poul Anderson. The Man in the Mailbag by Gordon Dixon. Mother Hitten's Little Kittens by Cordwainer Smith. A Kind of Artistry by Brian Aldiss. Gunpowder God by H. Beam Piper. Semley's Necklace by Ursula Le Guin. Moon Duel by Fritz Leiber. The Doors of His Face, The Lamps of His Mouth by Roger Zelazny. So we do have a lot of really good stuff in here. Mother in the Sky with Diamonds by James Tiptree. And then for the new stuff, who do we have? Goodbye Robinson Crusoe by John Varley. The Way of Cross and Dragon by George R.R. Martin, when he could still finish things. Swarm by Bruce Sterling. The Blind Minotaur by Michael Swanwick. Blabber by Werner Vinge. The Return of Kangaroo Rex by Janet Kagan. Oh, Prayers on the Wind by Walter John Williams. Wow, fantastic. The Missionary Child by Maureen McHugh. Poles Apart by G. David Nordley. Guest of Honor by Robert Reed. Gotta have a Robert Reed book in the new good stuff. Flowering Mandrake by George Turner. Cilia of Gold by Stephen Baxter. Gone to Glory by R. Garcia E. Robertson. A Dry Quiet War by Tony Daniel. All Tomorrow's Parties by Paul McAloy. Escape Route by Peter Hamilton. And The Eye of God by Mary Rosenblum. So not all of those have panned out. A lot of those authors, a lot more of those authors in the second half of this book have been forgotten, which shows you what a dicey game it is to try and pick like that. But you can see that Dozois was largely right for the first half. There's a lot of big hitters in the first half. So anyway, I wish I could find another copy of this. This is a book club edition, and I've never seen it again other than this one thing. I'd love to have another copy of it. But anyway, that is this shelf. The usual eclectic mix. Sorry about that. So I will wrap this up for now and try to figure out some way to stand up. But if I succeed, I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.